Yes, now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Thomas Fans YouTube channel. And what has just occurred is Misfits 16. I uploaded the predictions for them. Sorry, I was distracted yesterday. It was a bit of a late upload. I uploaded it just before the main event happened because I realised the call was going on now and shit. I haven't uploaded my predictions video yet. So, let's compare the predictions to what happened. And contrary to my WWE predictions, this went quite well. Apart from obviously SummerSlam, I predicted pretty much 100% of SummerSlam correctly. But here we go. So, first fight out, Leah Gotti versus Amber Fields. I knew nothing about either one of them, what they did. Obviously, I understand it was a ring girl and some of that porn star or whatever, but I didn't know of them. And no boxing insight, they had no fights. All I could tell was from your workout and just demeanour. And I got off of vibe and demeanour. I thought that Leah Gotti would win, and that is exactly what happened. All I've seen is the highlights, and in the highlights it showed the start, the first 10 seconds of the fight, and then Amber Fields getting stopped. And Amber Fields got stopped on her feet. I don't know if she was ever dropped, but it seems like Leah Gotti just overwhelmed her with volume, didn't really allow Amber to fight back much, and Amber was just overwhelmed and couldn't really defend herself, and the referee stopped it. So, decent. Leah Gotti's she's got balls, for a female. She's got balls, she'll throw. She's not afraid to throw down. And before the fight, she'd called out Astrid Ware and Nikki Rue. And to be honest, I think Nikki Rue should probably defend that belt against her, because Nikki Rue got handed a belt in a split decision, controversially, in her first fight against Alexia Grace, someone who arguably beat Astrid Ware already for the belt. But again, Alexia was robbed twice, in my opinion. She was robbed twice, in my opinion. But I think Nikki Rue is at liberty to defend. At liberty? No, I think she's obliged to defend, to be honest, because she got given a title shot in her first ever fight, and it was a close decision. Leah Gotti in her first ever fight convincingly beat someone, so I think Leah Gotti versus Nikki Rue for the title should happen. But there was something else she said after the fight, weirdly. She said in a 2v2, she wants to team up with Nikki Rue against Alexia Grace, an opponent of her choosing, in a US versus UK tag team match. I'm all for it. Just keep it at a tag team match. Don't put any women's tag belts on the line, please, dear God, no. But I'm all for it, because why not? Then we had, let's talk about the last minute lightweight tournament first round fight. Ace Musa was meant to fight Walid Sharks, and then Walid Sharks got injured, and Lil Cray Cray got put in as a replacement. I talked about this already, how I thought it was a bit unfair that they put Lil Cray Cray in there. I understand Lil Cray Cray, they need a short notice opponent, and Lil Cray Cray might feel a bit hard, he might feel a bit saddened by the fact that he was winning against Yuri Gang in the first fight, and then it got called off halfway through because of the bomb threat. But I'm sorry, he had the chance to prove himself in the second fight, and he lost. And when he's already lost an original fight to get re-entered back into the tournament as a short notice opponent, it's quite unfair on Ace Musa. And apparently it was a very close fight again. You can't really tell much from the highlights, but Lil Cray Cray ended up getting a split decision win over Ace Musa. Ace Musa apparently thought he won, so you gotta feel bad for Ace Musa. I mean, he was meant to fight Walid Sharks. I don't think he would have beat Walid Sharks still, but that's such a shame for Ace Musa. And Lil Cray Cray's kind of just got a second chance and got re-entered into the semi-finals. I mean, we went through a whole palaver of having a half a fight with Cray Cray and Yuri, then running it back, having a fight, having a winner, just for the win not mean anything, because both men end up in the semi-finals. So Lil Cray Cray is going to face off against Joey Knight now. Praying for Joey Knight. Speaking of, entered in the semi-finals, the first semi-final fight of the lightweight tournament, Yuri Gang takes on Argentinian King. In the last fight, Argentinian King fought Puliarov on short notice. Obviously, Puliarov has experience. He's been there with Dina Gray, Small Spartan J. So that was kind of harsh on Argentinian King, and he didn't get the most decisive victory. He wasn't as good as people would thought he'd been, but obviously, first time in the ring, short notice opponent, wasn't good for Argentinian King. But if Argentinian King scraped a win over Puliarov, I believe he has no chance against Yuri Gang. Yuri Gang has some of the best technical ability in Misfits boxing I've seen, besides probably Anthony Taylor and King Kenny. With that said, he was very improved in that fight. He showed a lot better skill and technique and speed and power, a lot better than he did in his first fight, and he actually matched up pretty 50-50 with Yuri Gang. In terms of skill, obviously I understand the fight was completely one-sided. It was Yuri Gang's fight to lose. Like, Yuri Gang won every round, so I've heard. But Argentinian King didn't make it easy for him. Argentinian King was quite... I seen in the highlights some decent shots from Argentinian King, but Lil Cray, he's great at shoulder roll. He's got great movement. He puts shots exactly where he wants them, places them. He's very... In his past fights, he's been very good at the quick jab, 1-2. But in this fight, he started introducing an uppercut, a slick uppercut, might I just say. Every uppercut was landing on AK. Like, he knew exactly where those shots were going, and he threw them, and it went there. There was one point, he threw an uppercut and pivoted out to the right, and I thought, that is so clean, that is so advanced. So Yuri Gang goes to the final, and it's going to be Joey Knight versus Lil Cray. I hope Joey Knight wins, one, because I want him to win the tournament, but two, I think if Lil Cray wins and goes to the final, that's so unfair on everyone, because I'm having Yuri Gang versus the Cray in the final. Come on, man. But I'd love to see Joey Knight versus Yuri Gang. That was the first beef that happened in this tournament, and I want to see it happen. But yes, I predicted Yuri Gang would win, and Yuri Gang did. Now, speaking of technical ability, speaking of being good in the ring, Misfits introduced two new pro fighters that they've signed to Misfits that had Jahan Ingram taking on quite a decent opponent in whatever he's called, but he's like Schwartzberg, someone the line Schwartzberg, who says, I've been there before, I've been in deep waters, came in with confidence. Someone who's not normally an influencer, I've never been on a big stage before, never usually shows this much confidence, but this Schwartzberg person definitely did. He says, I've been there before, I've taken out pretty boys before, I've taken out 4-0 people before, and I thought this could just be another pro. We'll see how well he goes. He could just be the average pro. But then when I heard he dropped Rolly Romero in sparring, I said, okay, now to drop someone is one thing, but to drop them in sparring with head guard and 16-ounce gloves, that's something else. I mean, obviously I heard emotions were high, so obviously a bit of adrenaline would obviously act upon that, but that's quite impressive. And then for him, obviously he won the fight. Jahan Ingram won the fight, which I'm guessing is what Misfits wanted. You know, they wanted to make sure he won, but propelled him. But usually Misfits are one for, they love their 4-round fights, but they're dropping these pros straight in 6-round fights, which I like that. Because if you look at some pros these days, for their first 10 fights, they're in like 4-round fights. So I'm glad that they're dropping them in 6-round fights, and he's only four fights in. So he got the win, but he got win by decision, which obviously that's just credit to Schwartzberg, because he's just went the 4 rounds, didn't even get dropped, didn't really get massively hurt, but he's just went 6 rounds with someone who dropped Rolly Romero. So impressive. That credits both men. I mean, I think by the end of the fight, Schwartzberg knew Jahan won the fight, because he wasn't even disappointed when he saw the result. But it's also just credit to Schwartzberg, because he just got some good experience in there, and he didn't get put out either. Then we had Emir Cashman Anderson, who I understand was in the 2020 Olympics, making his pro debut as a part of Misfits, and they put him up against a 1-in-5 boxer in Johnny Davis or something like that. I understand it's his pro debut, but to put him in there against someone who's 1-in-5, it first sounds a bit, it's an easy win. But then when the fight started, first of all, his pro debut, 6 rounds. Love that. Because even Anthony Joshua in his pro debut, I think, probably had 4 rounds. Who knows? But again, he was in the Olympics, so he's got that experience, so they know he could probably go 6 rounds. But this 1-in-5 fighter, he wasn't too bad. Like, the problem with him was he wasn't really letting off any shots. He was just kind of eating them. And I get Emir Cashman Anderson was very quick. He was so quick. He was just leathering them with shots. He'd see an opening, he'd throw 1, 2, 3. He'd see an opening, he'd throw so many more. He just knew exactly where the shots were going. He'd take every opportunity he'd get. He was fast, he was powerful. His opponent had no response for any of it. And I just think that's a great pro debut. I mean, the guy got stopped on his feet, but it was questionable because he wasn't really hurt when the referee stopped him. But it was just, he just was taking shots and wasn't giving any back. And the referee went, like, look, stop. Don't know what round they stopped it in, but we heard the ref and the opponent arguing, saying, you know, the opponent was like, why would you stop it? And the ref was like, you didn't win anything, you weren't winning any rounds. And that's a bit, nah. But I understand why the ref would stop it, but I just don't think it was the right moment. But who cares regardless, because Amir Cashman-Hansen was winning that fight just unanimously. All I saw was the highlights, and I could tell Cashman was winning that. He was talking to him, he's being mega confident. What a win for a pro debut. I mean, Misfits are doing a good job so far. Hopefully they push Jahan Ingram and Amir Cashman-Hansen, give them good opponents, the right opponents. But I heard there's a pro tournament coming on, so they're probably going to be introducing more pros to the scene, roughly around the same weight, like 160, because they probably want a pro 160 tournament. But I heard with a pro tournament, they'll probably have a cruiserweight one. So, we don't know how many pros Misfits are going to sign, but apparently it's a lot of them. Now, the co-main event, Samuel Erickson was meant to fight OJ Rose. OJ Rose is out the fight. We've been robbed of 2 OJ Rose fights now. He was meant to fight the American saying whatever he's called. He pulled out. Then OJ was meant to fight Samuel Erickson. OJ then pulled out. But on 3 days' notice, Samuel Erickson's replacement opponent is a champ himself, Anthony Pretty Boy Taylor, the man who was meant to fight KSI in the 2v1. The level has increased already. And obviously the stakes, it was high risk, high reward. I mean, Samuel Erickson had to take on arguably, technically, the best fighter in Misfits on 3 days' notice, who is a champ. But it meant if he won, massive credit and a belt. And I thought this was a very 50-50 toss-up, because, I mean, you have 2 very experienced fighters. I mean, you have Anthony Taylor, an experienced MMA fighter, experienced boxer. He's got the belt, he's very good, but he's very technical. He doesn't always hurt people. He's dropped people, but he always kind of clinches, and I hate when people call it hooks. It's not a hook, it's a clinch. It's an actual boxing term. That's for these idiots that watch it and go, oh, he's hooking. Shut up. They're clinching, right? He often clinches and just kind of makes it difficult for the opponent and roughs them up, and just kind of quick body shots and stuff like that, and overhands to get into guards. And that's what I was kind of expecting. And I thought Samuel Erickson, he's an experienced karate combat fighter, and from the clips we've seen, he's quite aggressive. So I thought the aggressive style could pose problems for Anthony Taylor, because he obviously could counter him when coming in, being rough, and actually hurt Anthony Taylor. But Anthony Taylor said he's not doing any clinching this fight. He used the word hugging, which I think is daft from him, because he's a pro fighter. He should use the pro fighter terms and not, stoop down to the level of people online. But, it is what it is. But I was quite surprised to see that Anthony Taylor dominated him. Anthony Taylor, he wasn't clinching whatsoever. He's just throwing the right shots, power shots. He eventually dropped Samuel Erickson in a really weird way. Like, he kind of, when they pushed them off, and then he kind of hit a right hand, and then he just kind of fell to the side. It was very weird, but he gets up, and then as soon as he gets up, the typical thing, Anthony Taylor piles on the pressure because he's just been knocked down. Samuel Erickson gets dropped in the corner again. Referee tells him to get up. He's up. She tells him to come out the corner. He takes a few seconds and then goes out the corner, and she goes, nah, that's it. And he goes, nah. You can hear him shouting, why did you stop the fight? She goes, you didn't respond to her straight away, which I think is also fair. Anthony Taylor, 3 days notice. I mean, it's just as hard for both people. But you've got to remember, Anthony Taylor was in a training camp, and, he's basically was ready. So, different type of Anthony Taylor we've seen, and he stopped Samuel Erickson. Very impressive, Anthony Taylor, still on 3 days notice. Feel bad for Samuel Erickson, though, because on 3 days notice, he's went from taking OJ Rose to Anthony Pretty Boy Taylor, and it didn't end well for him. Feel sorry. But, apparently they're announcing Anthony Taylor will be on the August 31st card fighting Gabriel Silva, and I think personally, from the fights that we've got so far, I think Anthony Taylor, Gabriel Silva could potentially be a main event, because I don't think KSI as the concert should be a main event. I think should do that before the main event, just like they did with Eminem in Saudi Arabia. Misfits is kind of copying. I guess Misfits will probably want to go either the HS Tiki Toki route or the Danny Aaron's Danny Simpson route, but I just think it's not clever. You've never seen HS or Danny in the ring properly, so you don't want to risk that being your main event. You can trust Anthony Taylor and Gabriel Silva as seasoned novices in the sport, but they're experienced fighters. We've seen Gabriel Silva and Misfits, we know he can fight. We've seen Anthony Taylor and Misfits, we know he can fight. Plus, Anthony Taylor's got a big enough name for himself. He's walked around the sport of boxing and all type of fight sports, making a name for himself, fighting big names. I mean, he's fought Tommy Fury. It's big enough, sort of big enough name. But a lot of people know Anthony Taylor. But then when you put Gabriel Silva, Anderson Silva's son in there, it has a bit of pull itself. So I think that could be a potential good main event. But in the actual main event of Misfits 16, it was Tempa versus Bruckner. I said this was a very 50-50 fight, but I said I was going to give it a Tempa because I was rooting for Tempa. Now, since you've got to take into consideration both of these men have had controversial careers. I mean, Josh Bruckner was 1-1 in Misfits. He beat an inexperienced Chase Demo, did not know how to fight. But then when he fought someone really good like Saul Pappy and lost. And it's no shame to lose to Saul Pappy. So it's like, we don't really know how good or how bad he is. Whereas Tempa, in his first fight, fought Kenny in his first fight, very inexperienced, got an overturned decision win. When they were a bit more trained, he had to fight Slim on short notice. Slim's very good, he got knocked out. He then took on an easy opponent on short notice, knocked him out in 2 punches. On the Misfits 4 card, he fought KSI on 2 weeks' notice. He was meant to fight a mystery opponent. The mystery opponent turned out to be Lewis Pineda. He went from a potential fight with Pineda to fighting KSI. That's not very good. So obviously he got knocked out by KSI. The one time he had a full training camp for a fight, Ginty in Newcastle, I was there. Mopped the floor with him. So I'm thinking, ooh, this could be a good sign for Tempa. He's had a full camp. And Bruckner thought, okay, let's see it. Bruckner has BJ Flores, a very good coach, trained Jake Paul. Tempa has Malik Scott, Deontay Wilder's trainer. I thought in the face-off, Tempa does look very skinny, and obviously Bruckner's very muscular, but that means nothing because Tempa might just be focused on boxing training. But then we went in there, and Tempa showed a bit of technical improvement, but not enough for me. I mean, Bruckner was moving in with volume, and that's we've known from history that Tempa can never handle that. It's even with Ginty, when Tempa was trying to stop Ginty's thrown wildly from the sides and Tempa's still getting caught with it. Tempa doesn't do well with high volume, and that's exactly what Josh Bruckner did. And eventually Josh Bruckner dropped him. Some people saying there was an elbow there in the first drop. If you literally slow it down, you can see the fist connects with his head first. Fist connects there and that turns his head. Then the elbow connects behind the ear. The elbow connected with his head, but the punch landed first, and that's what's important. The punch put him down. Maybe the elbow helped and maybe hurt him a bit more, but regardless, Josh Bruckner punched him. It's sport boxing, it works, it's how it works. Sometimes you get incidental headbutts, sometimes you get incidental elbows. It's just how it works, right? And Josh Bruckner obviously knocked him out. It was hard to watch because I feel bad for Tempa. Maybe it is time to hang up the gloves, but he is 3-3, so maybe he has one more fight with the right opponent on his level. Maybe he can prove himself. If he wins, maybe he can stay in the sport. If he loses, though, it's time to wrap it up, Tempa. But this has me questioning Malik Scott a bit. Not just because his fighters lose doesn't mean he's a bad coach. But look at Deontay Wilder, right? And yes, Deontay Wilder was a world champion, knocked people out. But that was from his punch power. When it came to technical ability, he lost to Tyson Fury every single time on technical ability. He even got knocked out by Tyson Fury, arguably the weaker puncher of the two. But again, that's Tyson Fury, world heavyweight champion. Plus, Tyson Fury was bigger than Deontay Wilder, right? But then when you look at his recent fights, got demolished by Joseph Parker. He's the bigger man than Joseph Parker. And he got outboxed. Joseph Parker chased him down the ring. He couldn't land a clean right hand, and then he was just panicking there because he couldn't technically box him. He wasn't good at the actual technicality of boxing. He couldn't box Parker. Parker was just backing him up, hitting him with shots. Johnny didn't know what to do. And same happened with Zhang. He hoped to just hit Zhang. He wasn't technical enough. His skill wasn't good enough. And Zhang eventually caught him with a good shot and stopped him. It just shows that Deontay Wilder wasn't as good as maybe we thought he was this whole time. Because he was knocking people out, yes, but then when he got given really good opponents, it wasn't good enough. And the same's happened with Tempa. Like, Malik Scott probably helped Tempa in a way, but he helped Tempa punch. Look what he did to Ginty. He got Ginty out there. But then when it came to a bit of a technical matchup, Tempa wasn't good enough. And I don't know if it's just Malik Scott's trained tall, skinny guys, but they've both got punch power and they both weren't that good technically. I'm just questioning Malik Scott, that's all. But he says he has another fighter, a female fighter, in his camp that might see on Misfits. So I'll see how she does, and then I'll judge Malik Scott's training. But as far as it goes, I was wrong on that one. But it was a 50-50 fight, and I did say that. Josh Bruckner wins, called out Le'Veon Bell. If that's the semi-final fight, and then you have like DTJ and Minicon versus someone else as another semi-final, Josh Bruckner, Le'Veon Bell should be the final, but that might be a semi-final. In that case, that's an even more 50-50 fight, because Le'Veon Bell, as we know, is good. He's very good. Obviously Tristan Ham, he didn't look as good, but that's stylistically the way Tristan Ham was fighting. But don't forget, Tristan Ham is also trained by BJ Flores. Tristan Ham is in the same camp as Josh Bruckner. BJ's studied, and BJ knows exactly what to do now against Le'Veon Bell. And Josh Bruckner's more powerful, he's more explosive, he's quicker. Josh Bruckner can attack that. But then again, Josh Bruckner's a wider target for Le'Veon to hit. Josh is easier to hit than Tristan. So I don't know. But Misfits, great show. The numbers leading up to it and the numbers after it weren't that good. But the numbers on the actual show looked good on YouTube anyway. So I'm praying Misfits are doing well. The crowd didn't look that empty. I thought Temper versus Bruckner as a main event. I thought that's very, I don't know how well that's going to do. But I mean, the seats weren't too bad. I mean, obviously it was a small arena, but it was a decent enough crowd. I've seen Misfits have some tiny crowds, and that was not bad at all. But that's my reactions to it. That's my thoughts on it. I don't know if I contributed much, but I hope I did. Please stick around, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.